Now this learner's guide I will be sharing through Viber for each class, and for the chemistry with Ikram sir group as well. So you don't need to worry about not seeing this one. The first thing which I want to highlight is the syllabus content, what you need to know. Compared to other chemistry syllabus, you have a total of 14 main topics, and in addition to the main topics, you should be able to be familiar with the experimental skills. So in addition to each and every topic that is mentioned here, almost every topic you will be asked to have a certain amount of experimental skills. So that means if you by heart everything in the chemistry content, that is all the 14 topics, you will not be able to get 100% in chemistry. So the qualitative and quantitative side of chemistry you have to be aware of. How you will be assessed. There are a total of 6 papers, but 6 papers is for students, those who are doing core and extended. In Maldives, we are doing only extended. All students, please make a note of this one. Chemistry in Maldives, we are doing extended. So that means when you buy past papers and when you focus the content, you have to focus on the first thing is paper 2, that is multiple choice. So please note down this one. Paper 4 is the written paper, and paper 6, alternative to practical, will be your practical paper. So please make note this one. Is when you buy past papers, you have to get paper 2, paper 4, and paper 6. I will go in detail about what all these papers are about and the time allocated. More information will be below. So let's see the components of each paper. This is very, very important information for all students as well as teachers as well, because how you may see about chemistry may change if you know this information. So the first thing is we have to skip the core, go to extended paper. If you check paper 2, that is multiple choice question, there will be 40 questions. That means each question 1 mark, total 40 marks. And the time allocated is 45 minutes. Usually paper 2, which is MCQ questions, will be mostly about your knowledge and understanding, but there will be problems regarding how you apply information that you know, and you have to answer all the questions. You can't leave any question. You have to answer all questions. There will be a MCQ grid provided for you, and you have to use pencil only in order to answer. Any other place if you use to write the answer, that will not be accepted. And if you use pen instead of pencil, those answers also will not be accepted. Then take a look at the percentage of qualification. 30% for paper 2. Means even if you got 40 marks, that is full marks for paper 2, you will get 30 marks. So each paper has a different percentage of allocations that you will receive. For example, paper 4, which is the theory paper, you have 50%, but the paper total is 80 marks. That means even if you get full marks 80, you will get 50 marks. So each paper total mark will be converted to a certain percentage in order to find the total mark for the subject. For paper 4, written theory paper, the questions will be short answer or structured questions, and you will need to answer all the questions. In previous chemistry syllabus question paper, there will be a section in which you have 4 questions and you need to answer only 3 questions. So you have option. But in this syllabus, you don't have any option. You need to answer all the questions. The total mark for the paper 4 is 80 marks, and the time duration is 1 hour 15 minutes. The last paper is paper 6, which is 1 hour, carries 40 marks. So in this one, paper 6, mostly you will be assessed with the experimental skill and investigation skill. This is about, you will get maximum 20%. So I will repeat. For paper 2, you will get maximum 30 marks. For paper 4, 50, and paper 6, 20. You can see the less weight is for the alternative to practical, and the highest weight is for paper 4, the theory paper. So it's very, very important that the highest percentage allocations, you get the highest mark as possible in order to get higher marks. So up to here, regarding the 3 types of paper, if you have any question, please proceed with the chat. Okay, if anyone do not have any question, I will proceed. Now, let me show you some of the components in a question paper. Now, it is very important for you to understand different type of questions that can be asked. And different type of questions, how you approach the answer will be different. For example, if you have to explain an answer, and if you have to describe an answer, the way you write the answer will be different. If you are to describe the reaction between sodium and water, describe means what you see, what's the observation. So that means you will be writing about if any color form, if any bubbles form, if anything that is visible from outside, that will be the description. But if you are to explain the reaction between sodium and water, you need to do more explanation. You need to give more explanation, ideas about how sodium reacts with water. Is it explosive reaction, or the transfer of electrons in terms of its electronic structure? You will be writing about in terms of heat transfer. You will be mentioning about the product's name. While when you describe a reaction, you will never use a product name in order to describe something. For example, when sodium and water reacts, the gas form is hydrogen. If the question asks to describe, you will never say hydrogen is formed. That will be wrong. But if for the explanation, if the question is asked, you have to mention the idea of hydrogen and sodium chloride formation. Let's take an example from this question. This is an MCQ question. This may not be that much visible, but you can see there will be 4 options. For each question, you choose one answer. Still, it's very rare that some students, they select more than one answer in an MCQ question. Please do not do that. If the examiner sees any other option that you have highlighted, other than more than one, they will not give any chance and you will get 0 for that question. So please keep this in mind. And you will be provided with a periodic table only in paper 1, that is in paper 2 and paper 4 only. This is very important point. For MCQ paper, that is paper 2, you will have only 45 minutes. That means you have only 1 minute to read and answer each question. 40 questions will be there. So you have to read carefully, questions carefully, but you have to read in a faster pace. You have to practice. You have to work on your time management. So it can be a challenging task if you are a little bit slow in reading. If you cannot answer a question, you can skip, mark that question, and you can go to the next one if you think that question is taking too much time. And this is also another point which I am seeing from many students. Do not look for patterns in the letter when you answer MCQ. So some students, what they do is, if question number 5 answer is A, if question number 2 you are getting A, and if question number 5, 6 and 7 consecutive 3 questions you are getting A, and you are looking at the pattern and you might think that question number 8, 9 you will not get A because of the pattern. You might think that since you got 3A for the consecutive 3 questions, you will not get A for the next one. Please refrain from thinking about this kind of pattern. That will be a waste of time and that will deviate you from concentration as well. Questions later, after 3 o'clock. Okay. Always write down your working. If you write something, that will be saved in your long-term memory. So write something and that will be a very helpful practice. Now, when we talk about theory paper, there will be a space that you have to write the answer. You need to write the answer in the space provided. Please do not use the side margins. If you use the margins, then marks might be deducted. Please do not refrain from using the margins. And in each question, there will be a number allocated inside a square bracket. That will be the marks allocated for that question. Periodic table will be given only to paper 2 and paper 4. The alternative to practical periodic table will not be there. In a theory paper, you will have, for example, 4 or 6 mark questions, which are structured questions. Usually, these questions are the last questions or later parts of the question paper. Those questions are asked. So, it's up to you. Some students prefer to answer this question first and go to the easier ones. Others, they keep those questions later. Now, when you draw diagram, this is one very important thing that student must remember. Other subjects you might be asked to use pencil, but in chemistry, it's always better to use pen to draw diagrams. If you draw diagram using pencil, that's okay, but you should not erase the diagram and draw on top of the diagram that you have drawn, because your question paper will be taken a carbon copy, and that carbon copy, when the carbon copy is taken, the answers that you have erased will be visible. So it's best to use pen to draw diagrams, and if you got any mistake, cut that part and write the answer again. Even when you draw a dot and cross diagram, it is best to use pen. Now, there's another point that I want all of you to remember. Take a look at this question. Explain why zinc chloride conducts electricity when molten, but not when solid. And the question is for 2 marks. Many students may write the answer. Zinc chloride conducts electricity because it has free mobile ions. So they will finish from there. So if you write only 1 point for a question that has 2 marks, you will get only 1 mark. So that means for this question, you have to explain why zinc chloride conducts electricity when molten, and also you have to explain why it does not conduct electricity when solid. So the answer will be zinc chloride conducts electricity when molten because the ions are able to freely move. However, in solid, the ions are not able to move freely. So you are giving the concept for both solid and molten. It's very important. You have to check how many marks allocated for the question and then answer. So this is also one important thing that you must remember. In paper 4, you may be asked to give a word equation. But if you are asked to write an equation only, if the question says to write an equation, that means you are expected to write the chemical equation, not the word equation. If you have to write the word equation, the question will specify whether you have to write the word equation or not. So please keep in mind, and also when you write the chemical equation, the equation must be balanced. That means the coefficient numbers, if you have to mention, those numbers should be there. If any equation is done without balancing, it is a wrong equation. An unbalanced equation is a wrong equation. So you can go through this learner's guide. During the break time, I will be sending this PDF file to your Viber group. It's almost 3 o'clock now. It's time for break, and we will come back at 3:10. I will answer your questions if you have. Then from 3:10, it will be time for answering your questions. So please get ready with the questions. You can write your answers here in the chat room. I will try my best to answer all the questions in order. All right? Okay. Thank you, everyone. All right, assalamu alaikum. Please type yes if you can hear me. Please type yes if you can hear me clearly and if you can see the screen. Let me do some adjustments. Please don't mind about the background noises. All right, very good. Let's proceed with the questions. If you have any question, just go ahead with the chat. I will do a little bit tweaking on the audio. So inshallah for the next class, I will try my level best to improve the sound quality. All right, go ahead with the questions. So how can you explain how position of equilibrium moves? That's a very good question. The position of equilibrium, how it moves. So the first thing is you have to know that equilibrium is only possible in a reversible reaction. How you know that it is a reversible reaction? When you see this sign. What is this sign? Anyone, can you answer what is this sign means? Reversible sign. Reversible sign means the reaction can proceed forward as well as backward. So equilibrium, we say, when the rate of forward reaction is equal to the rate of backward reaction. So if rate of forward reaction is equal to the rate of backward reaction, we say it is in equilibrium. But this is not the usual case. What happens here is, sometimes when the reaction occurs, only products are formed. So let's write down some products and reactants. And one of the most famous reaction, this one, nitrogen plus hydrogen giving rise to NH3. If you balance the equation, 2 in front of ammonia and 3 in front of hydrogen. Now the reaction can go forward as well as backward, but at certain time the amount of ammonia formed might be higher than the hydrogen and nitrogen. This is what we say when the equilibrium is shifting. If the amount of ammonia formed is higher, then we say equilibrium shift to the right side, or we say to the product side. Okay, and equilibrium shift to the left side or to the reactant side, we say to the reactant side as well. So how equilibrium shift depends on 3 conditions. Number 1, temperature. Number 2, pressure. And number 3, that is when you change the concentration. These 3 factors will go in, and if you change any factor depending on the reaction, the equilibrium will change. So I will not go in detail right now how temperature and pressure and concentration affect the equilibrium. That will be a different lesson. It will take a lot of time, so hope that answers your question a little bit. Next question. In dynamic equilibrium, if the rate and concentration is not equal in the forward reaction, will the product change? If the rate and concentration is not equal, the equilibrium will change. Yes. How to balance an equation? That's actually a very good question. Balance an equation is a very big challenging task for most students. Once you know the main idea of how to balance in equations, then it will become effortless. So when you balance an equation, always keep 3 things in mind. Okay, 3 points. The first point is balance metals. Always metals first. If you have any equation that has a metal, always balance metal first. If you have hydrogen or oxygen, make it as the last one. Alright? Then that is the first thing that you have to keep in mind. Okay? Then the second thing is, if you have a polyatomic ion, Polyatomic ions means like such as sulfate, carbonate, nitrate. These are called polyatomic ions. So if you have such ions, take it as a whole unit. I will explain what that is in a short while. Okay. So first thing is you have to balance metal first, hydrogen or oxygen if you have last. If you have polyatomic ions, take it as one unit, not individual elements separately. Alright? And the last point you have to remember is always try to make the odd number even. If you have an odd number, just hold on a bit. Everyone just give me a moment. Okay. All right, let's proceed. Everyone can hear me, right? So let's take an example, then you will understand what I am saying. If you have an equation, for example, calcium plus sulfuric acid give rise to calcium. This will be better to take, let's take nitric acid instead of sulfuric acid. Calcium nitrate plus H2. So you have an equation like this. Now in this equation you can see that nitrate is a polyatomic ion. When you balance nitrate, you have to take nitrate as a whole unit, not each individual element separately. So for example, do not try to balance nitrogen and oxygen separately. All right, that will be a very big task. Instead, take only the nitrate as a whole. So if you have two nitrates on the right side, you can introduce 2 in front of the nitric acid. Okay, you can introduce 2 because you have 2 nitrates here, so introduce 2 in front of nitric acid. So that means you are taking the nitrate as a whole for both sides. In that way, you are automatically balancing the hydrogen as the last one as well. Here in this one, I didn't check calcium first because calcium is already balanced. So this is one way. Always remember these 3 key points when you balance. Always metal first, polyatomic ion take as a unit, and make sure you make any odd number even. Alright, hope that answers the question. Any other question? You will need some practice in order for practicing balancing equation, because the thing about balancing equation, you have varieties, different types of equation, different kinds of equation. That will be a very big challenging task. So there's another question one student is mentioning about redox reaction. Redox. Redox is actually a very simple concept. Here in this one, um, what you have to know is redox is mainly about two concepts, that is oxidation and reduction. If you know these two concepts, then you will be able to learn easily what redox reaction is. So when you have to learn oxidation and reduction, the easiest way to start is to learn the uh, four different ways of uh, defining oxidation and reduction. So oxidation, for example, oxidation means, when you answer the question oxidation, what is oxidation, you can answer in terms of electron, you can answer in terms of oxygen, you can answer in terms of hydrogen, and you can answer in terms of oxidation number. So if it is oxidation, we say oxidation is loss of electron. It is addition of oxygen, or the opposite for hydrogen, which will be the removal of hydrogen. And for the oxidation number, if it is increasing, then we say it is oxidation. The exact opposite will be the reduction. All right. And a reaction in which both oxidation and reduction occur simultaneously is called a redox reaction. And in a reaction, for example, you have calcium plus, let's write the equation a little bit down. For example, calcium plus HCl giving rise to calcium chloride plus hydrogen. And if you ask which one of this calcium and HCl, which one is oxidized, how, first of all, how you know whether a reaction is redox or not? How can you tell? Just by looking at the equation. How can you tell whether this is a question for all students? How can you tell by looking at the equation whether the reaction is redox reaction or not? How can you know? The easiest way for you to know whether a reaction is a redox reaction is there will be an element. There will be an element on either side, whether right side or left side. If an element is there, then we know the reaction can be redox. But if all the reactants and if all the products are compounds, then the reaction cannot be redox. For example, acid-base reaction. For example, calcium oxide plus HCl giving rise to calcium chloride plus H2O. This reaction is not redox. Why? Because all the reactants and all the products are compounds. There is no single element mentioned. So the first equation will be a redox reaction. Then how you know which substance is oxidized, which substance is reduced? You have to deduce each element charge. You have to know how to identify the charge, the oxidation number for each element separately. So calcium is in group 2 of the periodic table, so it is +2 charge. Hydrogen is +1. Chlorine is group 7, it is -1. Those who didn't get the answer, please wait for a moment. You can watch the YouTube this live video later, so make sure you watch later and listen carefully. Okay, this one again. Now here I did a mistake. For calcium element, it cannot be +2. Any element, it will be 0. The oxidation number of any element, whether it is monoatomic or diatomic, it will be 0. The oxidation number will be 0. So if you write the charges, this will be for this calcium. In the calcium chloride, it will be +2. So chlorine will be -1. Again, hydrogen is an element, it is a diatomic element, 0. Now, from calcium element to calcium chloride compound, the oxidation number is increasing from 0 to +2. If the oxidation number is increasing, that means it is oxidation. Okay, and that means calcium is oxidized. All right, the element which is oxidized is calcium. The substance which is oxidized is called the reducing agent. The substance that itself oxidized is the reducing agent, because calcium help HCl to reduce. If calcium is the one which is oxidized, HCl will be the one that is reduced, because HCl, the oxidation number is decreased from +1 to 0. All right, hope this explanation is enough. It's now 3:30. I apologize if any important question I couldn't answer. Maybe next time I will try my level best to answer all the questions. So chemistry, some concepts you will need a little bit more time to go deep into it and to understand. So all students, please make sure that you listen carefully and then ask questions. All right, that's it about today's lesson. Hope to see you next time. Have a good day, everyone.